I don't know. Welcome to this special episode of Plat Chat Valorant, I guess. A little interview series that we're going to be doing on a weekly basis. Our first guest is joining us. Thank you very much. dapr is in the call. So we got dapr joining us today. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad myself. I'll ignore the fact that we've been actually having a discussion and talking for about 30 minutes before this. And we'll pretend like we just jumped in the call together. Yeah, but we figured we'd do a little interview series on the Plat Chat Valorant channel now. Probably going to be weekly, depending on how many guests we can get. And when I say guests we can get, I mean the guests that Josh gets, because you're the only one who actually puts in any legwork to find the guests in the first place.
Yeah, I talk to other human beings occasionally. Occasionally.
But yeah, we figured we'd start off with you, dapr, as well. And I guess it's just to get a nice little in-depth look, I guess, at the current topics that are surrounding the scene and getting your POV on it. And it's not just going to be pro players in the future. It'll be anyone who wants to come on, basically, coaches. And
I mean, don't say that. Fucking hell, we'll have everyone on. Just the absolute filth of humanity will be crawling their way onto here.
But we'll start with a nice and easy one. Yoru. How the fuck do you say this?
Well, actually, I don't even want to start with him though, because there was a bunch of news. So to pull the peek behind the curtain or the blinds for a second, we just recorded the Plat Chat Valorant episode on Monday, like the one that aired 2 days ago, and we missed a bunch of news that just came out.
It came out at the same time.
I mean, immediately after.
So you want to talk about the episode details?
Yeah.
Right,
I want to get Dapr's thoughts on that kind of stuff as well.
Okay, so some of the details listed are, I don't actually have them.
I've got him. Don't worry, we're scrambling on the fly here. So the first thing was, there was the rank changes. So they're actually listing top 500 in the game. And it's going, in fact, it'll already be live by the time this premieres. And it's going to be updated in real time. Mm-hmm. It's like an actual top 500 leaderboard, the kind of stuff that people have been asking for ages. I mean, that must be one of the most sought after changes that all of the pros have been looking for, right, dapr?
Yeah. Because like at Radiant, you literally have nothing to play for. It just makes it like really tough to just like grind away ranked and like get nothing for it. So like having a leaderboard and trying to get for like number 1 or like I guess top 10 would be good, because like you just want everybody, if they look at the leaderboard, to see your name, right? That's what like everybody wants. So to have something like that to play for and everybody has like a reason to even try is definitely good, and it'll make the ranked more competitive, which will make like everybody better, in my opinion, if everybody tries all the time.
You want to get your name up there with the likes of Tens and Doink Machine.
The heavy hitters.
Right up there at the top. And that's going to be the entirety of Radiant. So Radiant is now going to be locked to 500 as well. I don't know how it worked in the past.
I think there was an ELO system. If you got actually the system was fucking confusing. Well, I think didn't you have to win against someone in Radiant as well?
I don't know. There was all of these like rumors about how you had to knock someone out of Radiant to get into Radiant, which literally is how it's going to work now. But
I think that was a myth. Yeah, I remember when Radiant first came out, it's like it's only top 200, and you have to wait for someone to get knocked down to get up, because people were going on like, I think even Sinatra had like a 14-game win streak in Immortal 3, and he never like got Radiant. So people just like made their own little conspiracies on why that was, but I don't think that's true, to be honest.
Also, I think they stealth shifted to this system more recently. Because you know the ELO tracker that people were using on stream, that was already using the exact same system that they are now releasing publicly.
It's just more
so like
it's more transparent,
right? But I don't think it's just transparency. I think they changed it like stealthily a few months back or something.
They did a rank shift,
but
it only really affected
they dragged people out of Iron, right?
Yeah, they kind of shifted the rank distribution, so the lower rank players would be more spread out from Iron to Platinum.
Yeah, it's like when you have a river and all the heavy metals sink to the bottom and they just stay there and they can't move anymore because they're just stuck in the sludge. So they basically came in and they just splashed the water around a little bit so the little iron pellets can float up further and further towards the top.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, it's very classic physics.
Anyway,
moving on.
Anyway, what's the next change? Yeah. So I'm curious of what you think about this one, dapr, this next change. And it's Immortal and Radiance can now only solo or duo queue. This is something that some people were clamoring for? What would you say?
Sorry, I accidentally hit this popcorn thing and it rings like a ceramic bell. So I had my phone out and I just fucking clanged it by accident. And it sounded like I was trying to have a speech or something, but I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
On the townspeople.
Hear ye, hear ye.
So yeah, the Immortal and Radiant rank. This is what some people were clamoring for, at least I think, in a higher
tons
ranks.
of people.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on this? What's your take on this?
I think it'll literally force people to like communicate if they want to win, instead of just like 5 stacking with their friends. If they want to do that, they just play unrated or unranked or whatever. I think it'll make it way more competitive. I think these are all the right changes. They kind of teased it, and we've been waiting for it because like I started going to 10-mans and stuff, and like I've been trying to like coordinate 10-mans because like ranked is just really boring. You know, you literally have nothing to play for. So like with both of these changes, the leaderboard and solo duo, so it's like you can't just like you're not soloing and then you've been waiting for 30 minutes and you get stacked up against a 5 stack of other pros, and it's just like the game's already lost, you know, like you're not going to win with like random people and you're versing at 5 queues. So this is definitely like make it way better, enjoyable experience.
Will it actually make the queues quicker as well to pop? Because if everyone's solo or duo queuing, in theory it should be easier to like put people together.
Because
right?
I think before you had these long queues, right, with people 5 stacking.
Yeah. But I mean, 5 stacks should be the quickest to be able to make, because it literally then you only have to make another team to go up against them.
But you have to try and match their elo. Because it averages out their elo probably, and it tries to match you against, and it's like spends years trying to find because it's so limited.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know a lot about matchmaking.
I saw David P in a queue for 8 hours just waiting. Yeah. And because he's
I was gonna say just last night I tried a 3Q with Sick and Shazam, and we're in just a 3Q. It was 40 minutes. I just quit. I was like, I don't want to wait. It was only a 3Q. You know, it's just tough to get games. I think solo duo will make it way more easier, especially since now people in Radiant, because everybody used to smurf. I mean, even now, like before the leaderboard, people are just smurfing. They don't want to wait for all these long queues. Now that they have a reason to play, they're going to play on their mains. There's just going to be way more people playing at that rank. So the games will go quicker, I think. At least at the start.
I kind of, it's, people are going to look back fondly on this area of smurfing a little bit, though, I think. And I know that's a hot take, but hear me out. Okay. Some people in my chat were, they're Diamond, they're around the same rank as me. They played a game with Hiko when Hiko was on a smurf in Diamond. And they said it was one of the most fun experiences of their life, getting baited like the rest of 100 Thieves. They lost that game, but they said it was a lot of fun. You know, it was like they had a brush with greatness. So you know, it was like the gods reaching down from Mount Olympus to mess with the mortal man, and now they're back up in their high castles. So
overall, though, I think it's pretty positive changes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so good for the ecosystem, right? Yeah, just players to actually be able to get their name out there if you can get a high rank and noticed by team.
The thing that I'm worried about with it is I'm worried about dappr's mental state solo queuing all the time, because as much as you said it'll force people to communicate with each other, I think about the only thing that could actually force people to communicate and play like proper teammates is if the Riot admins ventriloquist dummied their way up the fucking asses of players and started controlling them. Because otherwise, there's no system in the world that can force people to be good teammates.
I mean, I've played with some absolute troglodytes in ranked, and I mean, it's you encounter some people who, for whatever reason, they just take ranked gameplay as a substitute for therapy. They take it out on me. You know what I'm talking about. Just the people who come in there and you just know that someone shat in their cereal that day. They are just fucking mean.
Taking out all their problems on you.
Yeah, or just like in the game in general. Like they're just horrible people.
I wonder if there is a way for them to monitor like how much individuals are speaking at higher ranks, and if Big Brother Riot can just come down and like eventually derank players for not communicating enough.
Can you imagine how people would get around that? You'd be playing a game, not really comment at all. You get to the end and just hold your mic down and go, just for the final 2 rounds, you just speak gibberish to try and make sure you hit the quota.
The quota. 2 minutes of push-a-talk time.
Let's workshop that idea a bit. Maybe don't implement it immediately.
Some additional changes that are being implemented as well is that they're making it more transparent so you can see your elo. So they're getting rid of the arrow systems and you actually see the number now.
Yeah.
Like the API plugin.
Yeah. You could see what they were going for with the Dorito, but that one was a bit lost on me.
The Dorito?
My little brain couldn't handle that.
Well, the up arrows.
The little
yeah,
up
the,
and
little,
down
the
arrows.
arrows and all that. Yeah, it was a little too much. Yeah.
Thankfully, I mean, hopefully, anyway. I'm not gonna assume that people will stop being dumb, but the amount of Reddit threads I have seen that are like, how did this happen? I got a triple down arrow, even though I performed better than this person that got a double down arrow. I'm like, shut up. The
People
arrows aren't
ask me
accurate.
in my streams, like, why did that? Do you get down arrows like me? Like, this doesn't make sense. I was like, dude, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, they just complain. They complain to anybody who they come.
Trying to peddle their complaints to whoever will listen. Yeah. It's why, I mean, hopefully the extra transparency is only a good thing, though. It can only be positive for people's perception as well.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
you understand exactly, okay, you can still be like, how the fuck did I lose 40, what do they even call it? MMR or something?
Elo?
Elo?
Elo. Yeah.
Right.
Same
yeah,
thing.
I lost 40 Elo when someone else only lost 35. There's still going to be complaints like that, but at least you have an understanding of how the system works.
Sure.
Yeah.
You don't feel like
Yeah,
it's
that
hidden
makes
behind
sense.
some bullshit arrow fuckery.
I mean, people are still dumb. They're still
Oh,
going to
yeah.
complain about the Elo system.
Yes.
That could be
Like-
the title.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think the Elo system is going to be perfect either, but I think this is a good step in the right
Sure.
direction.
Sure.
Right? Like,
It's definitely better.
Yeah.
I think it's better on all accounts. All these ranked.
Yeah,
changes
there's
are actually
also
just straight up improvements.
the you need to the way it works is like it's 0 to 100. So you get to 100, you immediately rank up. But if you get to 0, you have to lose another game to D rank. So when you get promoted, you have to lose 2 games to get demoted again. Which like you have to lose 2 games in order to get demoted again. You can't just lose one big game. You
And
literally
get
have
knocked
to
out.
lose.
It's 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to lose 2. So
So
that
it seems like they're making it pretty easy to just inflate the ranks, but what do I know? Because if it's harder to lose your ranks, and apparently I also read that you can only lose a maximum of 30 rating, whereas you can win up to 50.
yes.
It's like quite top heavy. I feel like they're gonna have the same problem that CS had back in like 2014, 2015, where people just accumulated ranks basically.
by basically going like 50% the entire time.
Yeah,
But you end
they
up
just
ranking
floated
up over a
upwards.
long
I
period
don't
of
know.
time.
Yeah.
for office so much.
But the number actually might not be what your MMR is.
Yeah, mate, Dapper, have you heard about this? This guy he's complaining about it. He's literally the fucking problem. Bren queued solo for office only
it wasn't office.
for years.
It wasn't-
For
it wasn't
years.
office.
He had like set smokes and pop flashes for office.
It wasn't
And he's like
office.
5 queuing it with the rest
For
of
the
his stack.
hostages. Using
No,
his
no.
body shields and shit.
I'm telling you, it wasn't office. It was Operation Breakout, the map workout. It wasn't even office.
That's
It was
even
like-
worse. That's worse.
Yeah, bro, it was like
Operation
no
map.
one was queuing it. It was a hostage map. We had like individual call outs. For like, there was like a basketball gym. We call it LeBron. And it was like, we had like proper nades across. There it is the map. Yo, I'm telling you, this map was actually sick. There was like a little jump scout spot here. I'm telling you, I got to global elite on this map alone.
Imagine
Reminds me of the
that
Gears
being
of
in the
War
game.
map.
Huh?
Did anybody play Gears of War? Like Gears of War 4? There's a map just like this. I forget.
Wait, really?
Oh, man.
I never
It was
played
in a
it.
stadium. It might just be called Stadium. Like they're
Brent's
not
about to
really
become a
slick with
Gears of
it.
War pro. He's only playing Stadium. You are literally the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing this when I was like 15. I was just like, oh, whatever, we'll just stack it because the rank was important to me back then. It's
Mate,
not-
there's pro players in Valorant who are 15.
It's true, actually. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like that could be a risk, but also the ELO that they show might be different to the actual MMR. They might have 2 different systems, like a hidden actual rating.
I don't think. Well, maybe they do, but they
I don't know.
haven't said that.
Yeah.
They do.
Well,
What do you
whatever.
think about the idea of running 10-man's Dapper? Do you think that eventually, like some kind of 10-man system or like a FPL, but for Valorant, is going to be a necessary or natural thing that supersedes the ranked experience, at least for pro players?
I think maybe there's inherent problems with everything. I think Riot shut it down very early. I don't think there'll ever be an FPL. for Valorant. Like I think they forbid like money prizes.
Sure.
What was it? Pittsburgh. There's a 10-man system. Tier 1 pros didn't really play it, but it was more tier 2. The name's escaping me, but my friend SFX ran it, and they shut it down. They banned it, and now you can't do it. And now there's like 10-mans that are just for fun. It definitely like leads to like a better experience because it's like a captain system. So like the teams are always going to be like somewhat fair, but yeah, there's problems with it where like people just want to play with their friends, and like when you play with their friends, it becomes like a trolley atmosphere. But you know, if everybody wants to stay competitive and like make it a good experience and like kind of treat it like practice, and you know, maybe experiment, try new stuff, and communicate with pushes and stuff, it would be good. But to be honest, I've never seen it last in anything. Usually NA is just kind of bad at like being serious for longer than 2 weeks. That's honestly, I've never seen it. I think Europe is actually better in that. Actually, that's one of my main reasons why I think Europe eventually might pass us, is because I think they just have like a stronger mental with stuff like that. You know, they just take the game more serious. Deadass. Like I actually think that's literally the only reason that Europe consistently gets better, is because NA is like fleas almost, where like they can't really focus on being serious for a long time. That's
Squirrelkin. Just distracted at all times.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, says the king of claws. That was just dicking around in a seeding
very
game.
ironic coming from me. But.
Yeah, literally. Self-reflective enough to recognize his own flaws, and yet decides it's not irrelevant.
The additional changes that are apparently coming in as well are rank rewards. So you're going to be getting rewarded for presumably hitting a certain rank. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this something that appeals to you, Dapper? Are you a skin guy? Would you, if you got like
I'm a big fan. I actually said this to the dev team. I'm just gonna take I think I made this change happen for the team, so you guys could thank me. I came from League, so there's championship skins, and I think they still do it, where like if you're above gold, you get it, and like if you're plat or diamond or master or challenger, you get like chromas. I think they might introduce chromas. You know, like different. Well, they do. They have different color textures. You know, like when you. So it'll probably be like that. It'll literally, I think that's probably what it's gonna be. It's gonna be like a championship skin, probably not named that. And then depending like gold or above, and then like depending what you are, you'll get like the different color scheme.
Yeah,
I think I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I got like a tiny part of my brain. I've also got a tiny brain, but it's like a crow. I just like to collect skins. Although to be fair, I haven't bought a skin in a while, but if I see that as a reward, it makes me want to push for a higher rank. I don't know why. It just does.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I had the same thing when I was playing Magic the Gathering a lot.
I
know that's really weird.
MTG
but
Arena?
Like, yeah, when I was playing a bunch of MTG Arena, and I really wanted to get to a higher rank, because if you finish the season on a higher rank, you get more cards.
Yeah, you get more stuff.
Cycled his way into Mythic. He's actually cycling Zenith Flare player.
Did you actually get to Mythic with?
Yeah,
Zenith
I got to
Flare
Mythic just with. Well, I was playing some other stuff in order to break the monotony. But yeah, I was just basically winning from cycle decks.
Actually disgusting.
As long as you weren't counter what's it called? Counter the green blue flash, where like you just counter everything and then flash it at the end with the wolf. I forget what it's called.
What? I've never played against that.
That's Kurt plays
really?
that deck.
Yeah.
That is
Flash
virginity.
Decks.
Virginity at its finest, that day.
Whoa! Just roasting our producer.
He knows it. That's the thing. Like if you play that, you know.
Dude,
So
I
it's
bought
like,
it. Okay, I bought it pre-made. I haven't touched it since.
So good.
I'm stringing a white claw as well.
He actually just 360'd on him. You know.
What else is in this list? So apparently the plans for 2021 as well. They're combating AFK and smurfing more. I think this is more of a problem at lower ranks than it is to higher ranks. Like, I mean, at higher ranks, a smurf is just an alternate account.
And I've never had an AFK. Like,
yeah, I've never had an AFK in Diamond.
I've had people that accidentally. Oh, I've had people that tilt an AFK.
Really?
Remember that one
Yeah.
time we were playing a
I
game? I remember a guy was so disappointed in his play that he disconnected for 2 rounds and then came back and he's like, "Sorry guys, I just needed a moment."
Yeah, took a walk to get some fresh air.
Yes,
I needed that. Sorry.
We lost that game like in overtime as well. Like if he just stayed, even though he's playing like shite, we would have won. He just left.
God, that's amazing.
Joke about that, but the tilt walks do work. When I was going hard in Valorant like 3 months ago, sometimes I'd have a string of games and be like, "Fuck, I just gotta take a walk around the block." And it'd be like 1 a.m. I'd be fucking speed walking like a fucking Karen, just going around the block trying to work off the pent-up aggression.
What do you do to work off the tilt, dapr? What's the pro move for that?
I mean, honestly, I haven't tilted hard, even in like hard fought BO3s where I think we should have won a map and we lost it. I'm just like a little upset either at myself or like something didn't go our way and we just got unfortunate. Usually, yeah, I'm like the kind of person that like I'll be like, all right, guys, don't worry about it. Even though like I'm like kind of worried about it, I'll be like, guys, don't worry about it. Like we'll get the next one. And like telling them and like trying to like tell them not to worry kind of like eases me. It's like almost like fixing other people like eases me, you know? Even if I don't necessarily believe what I'm saying in the moment.
Yeah, a lot of teams need that, honestly, and a lot of teams lack that. Like just somebody to take the wheel almost when shit gets rough. Because otherwise, I mean, I don't know, you've probably been part of teams where shit just goes south real quick, and then you're down 1-0 in a best of 3, and no one is picking up the mantle. Everyone's quiet for some reason. The comms aren't the same. It's not the same environment, and you can just feel it just slipping away.
Yeah.
I have heard so many horror stories of just teams where you've got nobody really stepping up in that moment to just try and rectify yourself.
You know what the worst case scenario is as well? I used to play on teams with like giga nerds who would just get whiny and quiet.
Yeah.
And then one of them would realize that it was getting really quiet. And so they'd be like, oh, fuck, I got to say something. Don't worry, guys, we got it.
The most disingenuous thing you could ever say in the situation.
The least genuine thing in the world.
Let's go.
And you're sat there and you're like, well, I was a little bit annoyed before. Now I'm fucking tilted.
Yeah, it's a good thing though. What is next? What else are they doing?
There's a bunch of stuff that they said they're going to work on as well. So they said they were likely going to release a new map before episode 3. Now episode 3 should be coming out in like summer, I think.
Okay.
It's like 6 months for each episode, something like that. So
Sounds about right.
5 months to make Icebox better.
Yeah. And then they said they're targeting a 7-map pool before 2022. So basically 2 maps coming out this year. Is the idea.
New balance update for Split as well in a month or 2. What's your general opinion then, dapr, on the state of the map balance at the moment? Like, I think Icebox is just across the board negative for a lot of teams. The new changes, what do you make of that? Is that like a step in the right direction, presumably?
Well, what changes are you talking about?
The Icebox
like changes
when
in
so the verticality and whatnot. But also, I'm surprised as well that they've listed. I guess it's kind of 2 questions in one. We can take it in one step at a time by talking about Icebox first. Like, do you feel like this map is getting in a good spot right now? Do they need to make additional changes? Like, what's your opinion on it?
I think mid needs to be adjusted. I'm not the most creative person. I could understand, like, I'm kind of like a monkey brain when it comes to like map and characters. I'm just like, this is not good. And I can't really tell you like how to fix it, but I'll tell you like mid problem. And it's like, there you go. Like now you know. So like I'll send it to like you guys, but like mid, like it's impossible to split. Like the usually what happens and like the meta, in my opinion, is like you hit a site with like 4 or 5 people and you have one person that like lurks mid 1 round, so they have to respect the mid lurk, and then you don't do it again. And because mid is just too impossible, like to split A from mid on Icebox, you have to literally go into their spawn.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's really tough. Same with B, that there's a million angles. A is a little clustered for my liking, but like at the end of the day, even like what it is now, I think if they just adjusted mid slowly and just kind of did like little incremental changes and see where we end up, kind of like what they did on Split, because Split was kind of the same as Icebox. I don't know if you remember, like everybody hated Split mid.
Yeah.
You know, and then they kind of changed like the stairs and stuff, and then now it's like I think Split's pretty even. I think it's 50-50. Like it's like 60-40 defender, you know, like 7-5 halves, 8-4 maybe. Like not even. I feel like it's kind of even.
That's a weird thing about Split too, is that some regions it was becoming attacking sided as well. Like the European teams were playing with so much breach, and they were just like overwhelming people with flashes when you were trying to hold the B heaven areas. So it ended up actually statistically being attackers sided in first strike, which is so strange. Like it's very
I
weird.
actually don't think it's strange. I said that. I used to say it on my stream because a little earlier, a couple of months ago, when we are like I think we're undefeated on Split for a long time, like a decent amount of time. I'm talking about like ancient history now. It seemed like forever ago, but yeah, when we are like the #1 team, we owned on T side, and it's just like it's really easy against teams on TT side that don't really know the rotations or like who's responsible for what when this gets taken and stuff like that. It's really easy to like take either like B heaven or rope, something mid, or even like A ramp, just take something from them and then just sitting on it and just like abusing either the sound cues they give you or like how they rotate around, or like they'll just push into you and they'll just kind of like throw away the round, So it's stuff like that. I think teams are genuinely just gotten better at like understanding how to retake stuff with like their utility. So it's getting tougher and tougher. I think it's just evolving.
Yeah. What I really liked about the the Sentinels split attack, because I think at one point you guys were like clearly the best in the world at split, was how you were so good at being able to take A ramp on your own, and Sick was able to just actually walk into B based off that pressure just with the wall, and he was just he had the testicles large enough to just walk into B based on like the idea that he knew the defenders were taken elsewhere, and it seemed like no one else was doing that at that time.
Yeah, I think me and Hunter have very good. I mean, all of us, don't get me wrong, but it's just me and Hunter put into the roles mostly of taking space where we understand that like it's not just random. It's nothing's ever like just unless it's like very desperate. But I don't remember a lot of times that we just get super desperate and just do a risky play. It's mostly like this guy's here and he usually plays A, so just go A, and it's like I'll just take the space A, and then like it's a calculated risk that like there's not going to be anybody at this position, or like me and Jay work together a lot that we'll just take top ramp, and it's really successful even to this day. That like we've been doing it forever. It's just stuff is just really hard to counter. You have to be consistently like adjusting on split, to be honest, like really switching it up and understanding what to do and how to hold stuff together with whole different setups. I think it's actually one of the most like complicated maps with like how many different setups you have to do on CT side to actually have like a consistent half.
Yeah. I actually really like it. I think it's a good map.
I like it. It's my favorite map in competitive, honestly.
Really?
I think it's sense to get close, but split is like one of the maps where it really separates like the men from the boys in terms of like teams. You could consistently see the adjustments of the good teams, and like the bad teams will just fumble. I honestly, that's my opinion.
Explains why I hate it. I don't like it. It requires coordination.
It requires a lot. It requires the most comms.
It really does. Yeah, I like to fucking int. I'm an inter.
So there's supposed to be split changes?
That's what they've said, yeah. Apparently they have a new balance update for split in a month or two. So they clearly feel like it needs additional changes on top. I mean, they must be seeing something in like the data in terms of it being still defenders sided. And they probably want to try and achieve some sort of parity. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't mind having maps where they are
one-sided on the other.
Like kind of a little bit one-sided towards one particular
I don't hate that. I don't hate that. I
agree. I think it just pugs like the casual.
Yeah.
People don't like to get 9-3'd and then lose a pistol and then they just give up.
Yeah.
People just give up.
I think if the average is like a 9-3, that's pretty bad. But if your average is 8-4 or 7-5, I think that's really doable. Like I think that's perfectly fine. I also think that from playing Icebox in ranked, at least at the level that I'm playing it at, it seems to be that kind of sided but attacker way, where people are just flooding at you, and it feels very hard when we play in ranked to defend, at least on the A site as well.
Actually,
you just get totally overwhelmed unless you have crazy coordination.
I feel like that's one of the major issues of Icebox is how wide it is, which is a weird term to use for a map. But in terms of the way it's designed, and you think about like the rotation timings, like if somebody is hard anchoring B and then a team hits A.
Oh yeah,
like,
it's a Lord of the Rings-esque trek.
Yeah, they have to run a marathon to get to the other side, and there's like no guarantee that he's gonna have his teammates still on the site to try and defend. I think that's one of the major problems with Icebox, in my opinion. But it's interesting that they're adjusting split first. So
how do you feel about the verticality on Icebox, dapr? Like, is it annoying to play on the A site with that level of it, or is it not really a problem?
Yeah, well, on CT side, I don't really, I'm like a deady B guy. I go A some rounds, but like I don't really fight, like the heaven angle, like the ramp. So I don't really have that heavy opinion. I know on T side when you go top ramp, like I think the most frustrating thing for me is that when you peek something, there's like 4 different angles at one point that you're gonna peek into, and it's like it's literally like it becomes a gamble, and I don't like
Yeah.
playing a game where like if I pre-aim you, I'll kill you, but like it's a 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 chance I'm gonna pre-aim your spot. It kind of becomes like a weird. Yeah, this fight. When you peek this, they could be on top of the boxes, on top of that thing, lower that back sight, top thing. And it's like it's really tough.
Yeah.
It's like it's lame to me.
I
That's the only
actually
thing I don't like.
I used to hate playing Icebox because I can't aim, and so I only managed to get kills in Valorant by pre-aiming positions properly. Like having a somewhat decent crosshair placement. If you ask me to actually do an aim challenge, I'm gonna lose terribly. so Icebox, with its myriad different places that you have to be potentially putting your crosshair, I just struggled on so much until I realized that I just run at people, and then it becomes easier, at least at this rank. It seems like as well at the pro level, if you play with a lot more pace, it seems to go a lot better on attack. Like the faster you play when you actually hit the site, the better you're able to like sweep through and clear the areas.
Exactly. That's why we ran Sky. Is literally for like pretty much the angle I talked about. Is we throw a flash to clear all those billion angles, and we wolf and I molly, and just like you can see it right now. I molly 2 angles, we flash, we raise bob, we wolf, we flash again. It's like so it makes it.
That is so unfortunate. The panic mouse 2
so.
hit is just aiming down sight.
It makes it way easier.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Icebox though, generally, because you guys were bigging up your Icebox game. Was like before First Strike, you guys were giving it the talk about how good you were on Icebox. I remember actually the Immortals coach as well tweeting that you guys were sick on Icebox as well, and it ended up being like a pretty crucial pick for you whenever you're playing against 100 Thieves. Was that just talking the talk, like putting the gas into people, or did you actually feel mega confident about Icebox coming in?
Well, I don't know how to say this without sounding just like a cunt, so I'm just gonna say it how I think. But we honestly, I don't remember the last time we never consistently lose scrims. I think since like I've joined this team, we've always either won just ran over teams in scrims, or at least been competitive. We never get ran over in scrims. So like when we first played Icebox, we like pretty much every team. We don't scrim the very tier 1 teams.
Sure.
The tournament coming up, like it's very rare. So we kind of play like, I don't really want to say, but teams that aren't necessarily tier 1, and we will literally have like 11 round half consistently. And it's like when you have that, it's kind of hard to be like not confident in your play. So it's like, but at the end of the day, you have to play matches to get tested on it. Every match we had in 100 Thieves, I think they went OT. I might be capping. I remember First Strike, it went OT and we lost. And if we won that, we would have won the First Strike semis.
Yeah. And then in the JBL, you actually won the final map on Icebox, I think.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's not necessarily that we're like super. It's probably one of our worst maps, if I'm being honest. But it's more like teams aren't necessarily putting in as much effort, maybe. Like
right.
There's 5 maps. They have to learn maps. We kind of mastered, not necessarily mastered, still stuff to learn, but like we're confident on our other 4 maps. So like we could allocate more time towards Icebox, but other teams might have to practice their ascent, for instance. So it's just like one of those things.
Interesting. Yeah. We can move the conversation talking about the new agent Yoru as well, because we kind of talked about it on Monday because this is coming out on Wednesday, so we did talk about it a little bit. But curious what your thoughts are on this agent as well, dapr, because it seems like he's going to be, I think honestly, a mainstay in a lot of compositions by the looks of it. Just the fact that he has flashes and the amount of outplay potential, the amount of crazy shit you can do in terms of fucking up the idea of timings in people's heads, just built into one agent, seems just ridiculous. I mean, I don't know if you agree with me on this as well, or like the general consensus in the pro scene. What seems to be everybody's take on it?
Well, our take as a team, this is an agent that I'm actually really excited about because this might be my flex. This seems like more like a lurker type agent, so it's like I could see myself playing this character instead of Cypher, maybe on a map that I'm not comfortable with, or like there's sometimes on Cypher that you just feel like you're really not getting any impact. I don't know if any Cypher mains out there like kind of feel it, but like there's times where like teams might literally counter you, like per se, that they kind of know exactly what you're doing. So you could pull this out and just have like a bigger impact. Yeah, I think he'll be really strong. I think we're not gonna mess with him until we see what other teams are doing. Like we'll probably be like one of the last teams to do it, just because his skill ceiling seems really high, or like what's the word?
Yeah.
He seems like a hard agent to master, to like actually get his full potential.
Definitely.
So it's like if teams want to go into him right away, it's almost like a sign of desperation, in my opinion.
Okay.
It's like you almost need to change something like drastic, because in my opinion, probably for like the next couple of like weeks or maybe in a month, like Phoenix would probably be way better and have way more impact than that guy. Like I guarantee the first events that this guy's being played, you're just gonna see ints from the players. Like I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Like they're just gonna teleport in front of their team, or like be the most obvious like footstep fakes, or you ult and exactly stuff like that. Where probably in like a couple of months he'll be like the best agent by far, and he'll need nerfs, but you haven't figured him out yet.
That sounds to me like you guys are envisioning him as being the third duelist in a triple duelist comp, a bit like TSM, where they're not really, they're running the triple duelist, but without the Sentinel, so they don't have to. They're constantly having to kind of watch their backs. They don't have the information gathering on an attack, and but they are still able to kind of take the entire map. That seems to be how you're thinking about it. I hadn't really considered that at all. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Is that what you guys are thinking about when you see Yoru?
Yeah. We honestly haven't put much thought. I'll be completely honest. I think one player out of every pro team gets invited. I think Zoms. Me and Shazam did Sky, so I actually play tested Sky. So I didn't do this time around. I think Zoms did it, and I think he's on like vacation, because I think they did over like the break that we were on. So I don't even think he touched it. So we haven't really gotten that much in-depth look at him. So maybe my opinion will change after this episode, but I think he isn't going to be a part of our comp for a bit. We'll probably give it a break and just definitely just see what other people are doing with them. We're usually pretty late to adapt, because people, like I said, I feel like people just kind of int in like almost desperation to get to the top. I don't know. It's like weird.
Sure, yeah. I can definitely foresee some teams jumping on it just to try and
like they beat themselves,
right?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. It's like the early, I don't know, like an early gimmick play, trying to gain a mastery of it when no one else understands it. And
I mean,
if get a leg up,
Yeah.
Especially if
He's
you're
a
like
solo
one of the,
queue agent for me, you know? Like, I won't do it in scared as well. Like, I'll
I
definitely
can
solo queue with
absolutely
him.
see this guy pub stomping.
oh
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
But you'd have to be good with it. That's the thing. Like, I feel like you have to put the hours in too. So I think like worst case scenario for a team like Sentinels that doesn't want to adopt it early is that it is mega powerful, and you're constantly then trying to play catch up to it.
Sure.
Right? Like if it really was, if it took a long time to master, and then you as a player are trying to catch up to those other guys, like, I don't know, Sabrosa puts in 100 hours into mastering this guy, and you're constantly trying to play catch up. That's like worst case scenario, right? I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but I think that it's going to take some time to actually get to grips with it. So if it does end up being meta later on down the line, and say like some team ends up popping off with Yoru in challenges, and so other teams are like, oh crap, we should start playing more Yoru. I think that's going to take the other teams a while to like get to grips with him as well.
Yeah.
I think there could be
like
advantages to picking it up early.
The same could be said about like Viper, you know?
Sure.
Some teams are like trying to incorporate Viper pretty heavy, and even if they have like decent success with it, doesn't necessarily mean I want to jump ship to Viper. You know, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Right.
It just kind of works in different capacities. Maybe Yoru.
We don't know, man. Don't even ask us.
he'll work in a capacity that like you might upset, or like it's not necessarily consistent, you know?
Yeah.
Because like at the end of the day, this is definitely, it's like the shit that like they'll clip and like they'll do like a highlight thing, but like how many plays can you do with the kit at the start? You know, it's going to be very obvious. The footstep fakes are going to be very obvious. People are just learning the agent. So yeah, I think incorporating him in your matches and scrims early is not the right play, but like trying to figure out his kit in solo queue or like a stress-free environment, maybe even a scrim. Like I might try him in a scrim early and just see, maybe I'll fall in love with him on like Ascent, and like we'll run him on Ascent just because I'm in love with the, stuff like that could happen. But just from my thoughts at the start, we have really no reason to change and like try to beat ourselves. I'm not a fan of beating ourselves. I want teams to beat us, not us beat ourselves.
Sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a good mentality, I think. A lot of teams. I mean, a lot of teams have done
Smack
that to
themselves in the head with a stick repeatedly.
Yeah.
Well, I learned from experience. I've done that throughout my whole CS career, so I like to learn from experiences as well. So
Yeah, he's an interesting character, honestly. I think you can definitely tell that when they were building Icebox as a map, because I mean, this guy was supposed to come out alongside Icebox, right?
Yeah.
They were supposed to time it all up. That's where all the clues come
really?
from. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think so.
okay.
Yeah.
Like Icebox was supposed to be released right now.
Yeah.
I can definitely see them, I don't know, at least some of the design elements of Icebox as a map, given how large it is, kind of tying into this guy as a character, like the whole concept of being able to TP and break the idea of specific holds and the idea of timings,
I feel like he's going to be butt cheeks on Icebox, though, to be honest.
Really? Why?
Because I feel like Icebox is a very straight up map at the moment.
At the moment, yeah.
Yeah, if you're playing on attack, you are pushing aside.
You're just hard hitting.
Yeah, you're not really trying to bait rotations and play a slow default most of the time, unless you're playing against a mega aggressive defensive team.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't really anticipate and seem too much play on Icebox, to be honest.
That's a good point.
But I don't know. I mean, again, the hell do I know until I watch some matches and actually see him play it? It's so impossible to figure out.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like it's just guessing. Honestly, everybody. I personally thought Sky would be really good, and then Sky got played, and she's not good at all. They're like not as good as I thought she would be.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's just always going to be the thing. You really have to just wait and see.
Yeah. Try it out. See
Every
what other
time,
teams do and see what you're doing.
Every time we see a new agent and we talk about it, at least the previous ones, I remember we did it with Killjoy, we did it with Sky, we did it with Reyna, talked about their kits being overtuned, busted, going to be picked all the time.
I
think we definitely thought Sky was going to be,
because we saw the heal, we saw the flash, we saw the fucking drone. We were like, she's got all this information gathering. She's got the heal as well for pistol rounds. Like I think our general impression was that those agents were busted, but it's the game is so complicated. There's so many variables in a game of Valorant that you can't really just judge an agent alone, and how it fits into the whole machine of a match. Sometimes it can be just kind of like downplayed by a lot of other factors.
Yeah,
you got to see how it plays out. We can talk about as well your role, I guess, dapr, about your role as like a Sentinel player, like playing Cypher in particular as well. Josh, you were the one who wrote these topics in.
Yeah,
I think you have something in mind.
Yeah, I wanted to ask some questions just about like kind of what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about split on offense as well. And just a lot of people, when I see people making clips on Reddit and guides to Sentinels, they're always focused on defense. They're always focused on just locking down a site. And what I think you do spectacularly compared to a lot of other Sentinel players, not players on your team, is fucking annoying, actually. You should get your org to change the name.
Sentinel.
Is that you have huge value on the attacking rounds. It's like a lot of the times when I think about dapr and I'm thinking about like how dapr plays, I'm picturing you on attack rather than defense, honestly, even though you're like a Sentinel, which in the game it says is designed to lock down areas. So I wanted to get into your thought process a little bit of how you approach the attacking rounds, and if you have any kind of tips for aspiring Sentinel players to maximize their value on the attacking rounds, because the defense I feel has just been covered completely and entirely. Yeah. But what's going through your head when you're trying to like provide value for your team on offense?
Well, I'm kind of a one trick. I have like aggressive setup. I pretty much plan out the rounds based on my team's default. So like usually you spread out the map, or like it always depends what my team's doing, depending on what I like to do. Or choosing what I want to do. I have plays that I like to do on every map. I think split's the easiest to just explain because I do the same thing. I've done the same thing for months, and I think it still works. It's just really good in my opinion. I use my cages to cut off angles, so the attacker or the defenders have to either commit utility to figure out if I'm there or not, or just give it up or try to fight where I'm actually headed. You know, I force the defenders to like actually figure out if I'm there or not. You know, just cause misconceptions, and that it's always a two-way street where like I could be there and you know they can try to fight me, or I could do that and they send people to fight me or commit utility to fight me, but I'm already running to the other site. So it's always that game that like Cypher players have to like figure out their own identity, because like I view it almost as a pussy where like I'll always fake it and then one round I'll do it, while other Cyphers have the complete opposite where they'll always fight it and then one round they'll fake it. You know, they're a little more aggressive. And it's funny kind of saying, because I think I'm viewed as an aggressive Cypher, but I'm almost like I fake a lot. So when I do an aggressive play, it usually works like 10 times better because it's almost catching them off guard. Or they just always respect it. I'm always forcing them to commit stuff to me, you know, that they have to clear it out. And they have to respect it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about your when we were talking about FPX actually recently. I don't know whether you're familiar with them as a team. They're quite a slow-paced, methodical team. You know, take slow map control. They recently changed out their Sentinel player as well, and they were talking about some of the reasons that they some of the reasons they gave for. Have you watched much Meadow?
I watched an event. I watched an event and I just like look at the minimap and just see where they place trips and see if it's weird. I don't watch Meadow that much. I watch Pith.
Oh yeah.
He has weird cameras. I actually take a lot of his cameras. I'll shout him out because I hate when people take my stuff and don't give me credit. So I take a couple of his cams. Steel has been pretty creative. I take a couple of his stuff. King from Vision Strikers.
Oh yeah.
Those three, honestly, I don't really follow others. Some like even people in NA and like tier 2 teams, the Cyphers get really creative with like just far out their setups. I've seen teams throw cages on like elevations and have their Omen TP in the cage, and then you know this weird stuff that like I'll probably never do, but like it's just interesting to see it.
Yeah, kind of theory crafting and stuff.
Yeah, I was going on with Meta, so I didn't.
What I was going to ask about FPX is that they recently changed their Sentinel, and one of the reasons that they had cited was stuff about like pace and tempo that he was playing at. And I think it's not something that gets discussed very much when it comes to that role. But when I watch you, for example, at the beginning of a round, you're very fast to take space on a map. Like when I think about your default on Haven or Bind, you're like really quick to either take a short control with the cam and with the cage, or on Bind, you're very quick to run up sand and immediately cam to see if anyone's holding the like, what do you even call that? Like the close op angle, I suppose, from like inside hookah kind of thing.
Yeah,
so what's your thought process? Is that just because you play on a team that likes to play aggressively at the beginning, or do you think there's something fundamentally better about immediately taking map control in Valorant on attack?
I think it's a combination of both. I don't think anything's as black as white as just one thing. I think it's probably leaning towards the second though. I think I was looking for a word. You kind of force the defenders to respond to you. You have to be proactive. So I view the game in that way, where I like to do stuff and kind of make them adjust to our default. So like on our default, I'll take one part of the map and then maybe my team will take another and I'll force them to react. And then we're also trying to be on top. So like you kind of guess where they're gonna fight you. And like, it's like one of those, it's a whole big thing. I think it's why we're honestly really good for a decent amount of time. So we're really good on taking stuff early and then maybe slowing up the tempo. All right, guys, this round we're just gonna go slow. So we know they're gonna fight us somewhere. So let's just hold. You know, and I think that's really important, controlling the tempo in that way, where some teams will go really slow. And then if it doesn't work, you know, they're just going to go fast. And, you know, they're playing into you, where if it's the other way around, where you're going aggressive and then slowing it up, it's way harder to adjust as a defender. Because you're so used to them just, all right, they're going to take short A, and then they're going to take garage, and so let's fight A. And then that round, we're just going to be posted up in the back with an op waiting for you to peek, you know? So that's my opinion on it. It definitely changes up. There's so much, like, context needed to, like, really make a complete decision, but that's kind of what goes on in my head when I'm taking that.
Like, part of the thought process, yeah.
Do you have any questions, Wyatt, about that? Like, I mean,
I kind of like talking about this, so I'm open. Like,
I mean, it's really interesting. Not a lot of people. I don't know. It's an aspect of, I think, Cypher gameplay that people just don't really focus on, right? Because I think they just inherently think about the role as defensive.
People get trapped. Like, people in ranked genuinely get trapped in thinking about that. And the one that bothers me the most, man, is Sage. Of them thinking that she's like a sentinel that's designed to stay alive and lock down areas and heal people. Like, you're playing a fucking WoW healer. It's bothering listening to people's opinions of them in ranked. But it also extends to the Sentinels too. Of like, part of that's what I find really interesting about Killjoy, even more so than Cypher, honestly, is how do you get value out of it on attack? Is like, that's half of the game, is playing the attacking half. Like, what are you providing for your team in these areas? And that I think I actually talked to you a little bit, dapr, when you were in my chat once about the thought process that you had with Cypher versus Killjoy, because a bunch of people right before First Strike were playing Killjoy pretty much full time. Like, I want to say that most of the top teams,
a lot of teams were just going Killjoy full time.
Killjoy.
Yeah, and Cypher kind of fell out of favor for a short while.
But you never really dabbled with it too much.
Huh?
You never really dabbled with it too much, like the Killjoy.
No, I honestly, I might have if my team was different. We play very fast, and I tried Killjoy. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I just like dismissed it right away. I did try Killjoy. I thought of strats on like bind, for example, like out of spawn mollies, and I tried to do stuff that like I thought would be creative. But at the end of the day, I just don't think Killjoy is that impactful on T side at all compared to what Cypher could do. Like Cypher with the aggressive cams, with tripwires and cages that you could do, and lockdown areas, I just feel way more comfortable and not as clunky than with Killjoy. Her mollies go slow. If you try to throw an aggressive molly, they just shoot it. And that's literally it. That you're not alarm botting and expecting them, or turret. Like, you could turret and just sit back behind your. But it just doesn't really fit what I like to do compared to Cypher. So like, I never found enjoyment out of it. But Killjoy is definitely better on like locking down one site on CT side, like indefinitely. Better than Cypher. Cypher, I feel like, is more of like a split where like Cypher can lock down two parts decent, while Killjoy holds down to one really well. I think that's where I like kind of differentiate them. While Cypher is also a little better on the T side. So yeah, I never really just liked Killjoy. I actually talked to the devs and said if they change the molly aspect, where like either the molly just travels faster and like you could activate it a little quicker and you could still shoot it, or just break, or you can't really break it. I might have liked her more, but yeah, the way she is now, I'm not really a fan.
Did you guys consider still running Sage past the nerfs? Because it seemed like Sick just dropped it immediately. And then the question comes up because obviously in EU, Heretics won still running Sage. So do you find that she's still viable? Have you guys considered bringing the Sage back?
Yeah, we did on Split. And it's literally just a comfort thing. We don't force anybody to do anything. I think Hunter honestly just wasn't feeling it. He just thought it's not necessarily a conversation of is Sky good, bad, whatever. It's, do you like Breach, or do you like Sky, or do you like Sage? And like out of those three, he just likes Sky, Phoenix on Haven, and Raze on Bind. He's very flexible. And he just kind of does what he wants. We trust him. He's a very smart person. He plays the game well. So it's like, at the end of the day, if we force him on Sage, he's just going to play worse. I'm never a fan of forcing certain comps, So we just kind of let him do what he's feeling. Maybe in scrims he'll be like, I'm really not feeling Sky on Icebox, let me run Sage, just like something like that. We'd do it. But yeah
I think that brings up quite an interesting point about Sentinels as well, is that they're still, am I wrong in saying this, but you're like one of the only tier 1 teams that doesn't have a coaching structure that is player run. Are there any other of the top teams that don't have coaches? Does
TSM does, 100 Thieves
TSM does, 100 Thieves does, Envy does, Cloud9 does, T1
does, yes, Fraud.
Yeah, I think. I mean,
FaZe does, getting one.
Oh well, FaZe is FaZe is the next team that hasn't had a coach for the longest time.
Really? Hasn't had.
I already talked about it a little bit. I just like our structure, honestly. I think we're really well run team. Like, we've been in the scene, we've been in scenes long enough. We know how practice is run constructively. We hold each other accountable. We're not toxic. We have decent strats. Like, I think that's like the one thing a coach could improve on, is just how to adjust strats better than
Sure.
we are. But like even that, we could still do it. It's just up to players that like if they're uncomfortable, we just speak up. You know, it's very
sure.
self-sufficient. We
you-
haven't really felt the heavy need for a coach.
Even if you haven't felt a need immediately, do you think that that's something that you would look towards for the future as the game evolves and progresses? And I know Sliggy, who's a coach for Liquid, has talked about kind of like the impact that coaches can have on the game at the moment is kind of lacking because of the tools available. It's just not really quite there compared to other titles.
There's no coaching slot. There's no replays to activate.
Exactly. So it's kind of limiting in terms of how much impact a coach can have. But that is going to change at some point. And at that point, I mean, it would make sense, I suppose, for your team to kind of like take on a coach in some sort of capacity. Do you feel like you'd be able to... I don't know, some teams struggle, I suppose, with moving from that player run aspect to introducing a coach in that kind of capacity. But is that something that you guys would be opposed to?
No, I'd never use the word opposed as on like any
Sure.
support system. I'm even down for like a sports psychologist. I'm actually pretty big into it. I'm open to pretty much anything involving like help around the team. It just comes down to finding the right fit. Like I said, we're in no need for a rush. So like when they do, probably like I could guarantee by the time a LAN comes around, we'll probably have a coach. And
Sure.
The thing is, I said I could probably guarantee we'll maybe have a coach. It's like, you know, like I can see us, you know, wanting to evolve at that point. You know.
Yeah.
We're definitely not. We're just looking for the right fit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the benefits, I think, of having a good coach can be pretty astronomical in a lot of ways. I mean, Jay Sinatra, your teammate, I think is one of the one example I think of in my head when I think of a player that just had the biggest glow up from having a coach introduce into his life.
Yeah.
From his early career in Overwatch from like 2018 onwards.
Yeah, he spoke very highly of the coach on Shock. I forget his
Coach
name.
Krusty.
He spoke very highly of him.
I mean, also, though, that means that any coach you ever get in the future will be worse than the only coach that Sinatra's ever had.
Yeah.
So the standard is actually set really, really high. So, yeah, I think at the beginning of a scene as well, the coaches have to kind of develop with the teams, too. Like a lot of the coaches that currently exist are developing the skill set on the job. It's like taking an apprenticeship, you know, where you are actually learning on the job and you're getting better and better. But like teams like... Sentinels and G2 are another pretty decent example, actually, where they're very player run and like the players are making the decisions there and they're trying to integrate a coach, but they haven't found the right fit for the team. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how it develops in the future because I feel like at some point it will be necessary, but it hasn't got to that point yet because I think most people would have you guys as like one of, if not the best team of, 2020 or the very end of the year or something like that, and you managed to get there without a coach. So clearly not required for the exact current moment in time.
Yeah. This moves us on quite nicely, actually, talking about, I think, First Strike as an event and the kind of preparation that you guys had. Obviously, it wasn't a tournament you guys wanted. There was a lot of expectations coming into First Strike that you guys would be one of the favorites, but a bunch of outside circumstances came up. I think as well the actual format of the event itself probably didn't help as well with your case, with you guys being one of the more dominant teams and like the kind of incentive not to show strategies a lot of the way moving through it. But is there anything, obviously in hindsight now, that you guys would approach differently with First Strike in terms of your prep for the event itself?
Honestly, I think we did all we could during the qualification stages. We only played the first one, and then obviously we didn't have to play the second one, so we had all that time to practice during like the second qualification before everything happened. But I'd probably I don't know. The thing is, I don't really look back and just be like, what could we have changed? It was honestly such a horrible circumstance. So we moved on. It was just something that like, we just instantly moved on from it. We never held anything personal. Obviously, shit really does. Life happens, where it's just like one of those things. I probably would have tried harder in the seeding matches. Like the thing was, it's definitely
all right, here we go. The claw debacle.
Honestly, I don't think it mattered at all. But at the end of the day, just from like a reputation or of like just like I guess a respect thing, because I see all this thing on Reddit and I kind of browse Reddit like half for fun and half like serious. Like I can't really take what these people say. It's just random people saying what like with so much confidence, like random shit. You know, it's just like I feel like that's just Reddit in like a nutshell.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it just became this thing where we almost put ourselves in a position where we're making excuses, and now it just becomes a thing where it's just like every team's making an excuse, we're making an excuse, and it's just like I feel like it's a bad look. I don't like it personally. So like I would change it just for that one aspect, and not necessarily for the result of First Strike. At the end of the day, you have to beat everybody to win, and we're not scared of anybody. Like still to this day, like I'll play anybody, and I'll just be like, okay, doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's more for like the mental.
So what you were coming into the seeding matches and you guys knew that you'd already qualified, and I think you were playing against Gen.G the first time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Gen.G was the infamous 360 claw map.
And I'm assuming that Sinatra was tweeting that as a meme, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was a meme because he just said White Claw because we had like a party, not like a party. That's not like the right word. We just went to like Shaz's apartment. I think I said this before we even started the podcast. We're playing games and we're just drinking like White Claws and like whatever, just having fun. And we were just having fun that game. Like honestly, me and Jay, we had this thing where after we're just like, dude, it's really hard. Honestly, it's really hard for me mentally when a game does not matter. Like even to this day, I really just hope we don't play seeding matches. We even had a discussion on the team that we just won't play seeding matches. Like we just forfeit rather than play if there is like one where it's just really hard to like mentally get into it when you just know it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's hard. And people could just disagree and say like I just don't care about the game and like whatever like case it is that like you could say, but as a competitor it's hard. And I think Sinatra had the same where he kind of agreed where it's just like whatever. But obviously Shaz sick, they kind of got like a little mad where like obviously they're trying their hardest. Like Shaz I really feel for it because he's the IGL, so like it's almost like he's blaming himself when we're getting smacked around. Like who likes losing at the end of the day? Like that was like, you know. So I would have tried harder just for like my team's sake.
But also now you've created a legendary meme.
Yes, that is the one thing. So I actually think it's fucking hilarious, and I embrace it full-heartedly. Like it is actually funny to me. So yeah.
But also, I mean, after that, you were doing 360 styling on FaZe at the end of the JBL Cup as well.
Dude, I did it. I did 360s against Hazed in like the Summer Bomb Cup in like one of the first things. That was like my first clip. I 360 them when there was like a 12-3 lead or something. I just like disrespect. So it's just something that I think is like funny just because it's disrespectful. If it's not apparent to everybody, I like disrespecting people to get in their head. It's just in my opinion, it's a free advantage, right? It's an advantage without actually having to do anything, without having to spend money in the game, without having to, you know.
Yeah, the amount of conversations I've had with Jake when we were living with him about like Jake is an Overwatch player in the Overwatch League, or he was, and he got match chat banned in the Overwatch League. He got the global all chat banned in the Overwatch League because of how much he would shit talk people, and he holds the exact same attitude where he's like, it's an in-game advantage, the psychological warfare of just making people tilt.
Psychological warfare, that's my favorite word.
Yeah,
it's a psychological warfare. If you win the psychological battle, you almost won the game already.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like when people get mad at shooting bodies or teabagging, I laugh. It's like, really? You got mad at that? It's like a video game. It's like pixels on your screen. This isn't like real life. Calm down.
The teabagging is just the wave in Valorant. I don't know who started. How did that
probably
become,
Sinatra, wasn't it?
Someone started that, and now just fucking everybody teabags in Valorant. Everybody.
I think it's great though. I don't understand how you can have such a stick up your ass that you think it's genuinely disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like there are definitely fans that consider it. Yeah, there are fans that think it's actual beef to be crouching on top of a player.
Taking us back to 2002.
I mean, that is definitely a more graphic version.
That is way more graphic. Yeah.
That is, I mean,
and everything.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I just think it's funny, and it's like it's one of those lose situations as well, where it's like if you complain that I teabag or like anybody in ranked, people just like you're teabagging me. It's like it's almost like I know it affected you. If you type about me teabagging you, I know it's like I already won.
Gonna do it even more now.
My
Yeah.
man's
It's
already
like
won.
it's a lose-lose. You're getting teabagged or you're losing the mental battle by typing. So it's funny to me, you know.
We actually had a little bit of an interesting discussion before the podcast as well about this, so I want to bring it back up, which was, what is your general prep? What does general pro level Valorant prep look like for Sentinels? If you're going into a match, what kind of stuff are you like? I think a lot of fans have the idea that with some of these teams that have 17 coaches and 92 analysts, that they're writing down every round and every position that everyone plays and all the abilities that are being used. And on the other side of it, some fans think that everyone just goes in and wings it like it's a ranked game. Or there's a scale there, and there's at some point is like what's reasonable for teams to do. What is the Sentinels' approach to actually prepping for a big tournament? Like, obviously, First Strike prep got fucked up, but if you're approaching Challengers or Masters that's coming up in 2021, what's the level of preparation that you do before you go into a game?
I'll start it off by just rephrasing that we don't like beating ourselves, so our thing is probably towards the lower end of the spectrum, but we still do stuff. We don't necessarily counter-strat heavy, but Shazam, I know for a fact, and I'll hype him up because I think he does a lot as an IGL and he is super unappreciated in like that role where people kind of sleep on like the best IGLs, and Shazam's right there fragging and doing it all on like a very competitive team for a long time. And he watches, obviously the tournaments, like you don't know who you're playing in the bracket when you're in groups, so you have to like adjust. He'll like watch like either their games at tournament or a grand final where it pressures, and like we'll see tendencies, rather like this guy plays here, or if this guy is B, they like to do an A push when that guy usually doesn't play B. So if you spot this camera, you know, stuff like that.
Right.
And we're also like a fan
Little
of
tells.
like looking at their pistol rounds. It's more of individual tendencies that we look for rather than strategies, or like, you know, not necessarily very hard counter strats, but just look for this. You know, if they give us this look, you should be ready for this. It's stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where he'll tell me and Zoms, like the anchors, that they really like hitting B, like, so just be ready. And like maybe I'll just, because of that info that he gave me before the game started, I'll set up differently, you know? So
Sure.
stuff like that.
Do you find it tougher to play against TSM or 100 Thieves?
My hardest match was the FaZe Invitational against TSM. In my opinion, I think that answer might change. 100 Thieves are still a new team. I could see them getting better as time progresses, but I think TSM are pretty on top of just like adjusting and knowing when to throw in random individuals and team play at the same time. So it's like they're pretty good at that. So that makes it kind of tough when they have the confidence to like walk through a smoke on a random timing, you know? That's just inherently hard to play against. Yeah.
So moving forward then, or is that, do we want to talk at all about 2021 now?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can talk a little bit about the JBL tournament and your guys' performance.
That did happen.
Well, actually, but before we even get to that, though, before we even get to that, though, you guys lost to 100 Thieves in the tournament itself, and at that point, you guys have been able to play for a little bit. What were your thoughts coming into, like, what were your overall thoughts about your performance during First Strike?
I think it was fine for the circumstances. I think we beat Envy very handily, right, in the group stage, or am I just like misinterpreting? Yeah, we kind of throttled Envy, and they were, in our opinion, a good team going into it. So like that gave us confidence. We beat FaZe in the quarterfinals again. Like we weren't necessarily in danger of losing, so that just confident wins were good. When we played 100 Thieves, we definitely didn't underestimate them in any like sense. And we still played a very close match. It was something to be proud of, honestly. We did not beat ourselves up at all. I think at the end of the day, I was actually happy. I would have been happy with leaving groups, honestly. If we lost in groups in First Strike, I still would have came here and just been like, I think that was okay, honestly.
Right. Just because of the circumstances.
We had 2 scrims before First Strike after, I think it was like 2.5 weeks.
Right.
Just to put in perspective, like, and like I said with the whole seeding thing, I really don't like making excuses. That's just not like who I enjoy to be. It's not something I like to put out there. So like, I'm not the person to make excuses, but that was like probably the worst circumstance. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, of course. That's then. That means that you must have very different expectations, though, for every other tournament, right? Like,
Yeah.
You're not happy to go out in the group stage of any other tournament because you don't have those crazy circumstances surrounding you guys moving forward. So, coming into JBL, I felt like that was kind of from the outside. It looked like your opportunity to close out the year, proving that First Strike was an anomaly, right? Like that's what it seemed like.
Yeah. That was our at least my mentality towards it as well. We definitely tried our hardest and we walked away with the W. I think things worked out during the bracket that like we played teams that like are pretty good matchups for us. Like I playing FaZe in the final instead of Gen.G, I think was good because we actually lose to Gen.G. Like we actually trade series with them more than anybody. So like if we played Gen.G in the final, we honestly might have lost it compared to FaZe. So it's like stuff like that kind of worked out for us. But yeah, beating
single
100
fact.
Thieves was good.
That single fact is why Wyatt is such a simp for Gen.G. He sees them beating Sentinels and he's like, they've got to be good. Please, please, Gen.G.
Just hanging on to hope from that.
Yeah, the last few times we played Gen.G, they beat us
7 years ago.
So it's like,
yeah, but you guys actually managed to get the. Yeah, go on.
Go. Oh, I was just gonna say that like it's weird interactions with all the teams where it's like Gen.G will never beat TSM, but they'll beat us. And then we'll never lose to Envy or C9, but TSM will lose to Envy and C9. And it's like stuff like that is like interesting to me. I actually had this discussion with I think Taylor, the TSM coach, because he was like weirded out to you with like, I don't know how you guys fucking lose this Gen.G because we fucking own them. And it's like I kind of feel the same way with Envy. We kind of own them. It's like I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the stylistic clashes between the teams and like how they actually match up. What is your thoughts about playing against 100 Thieves? Like it seems incredibly even. The map pool matches up so that you guys are pretty much consistently on the same kind of maps. They have Bind and Ascent as really strong maps for them. You know, you guys have Split. They tend to ban that while you ban one of the other. And then it ends up coming down to the same kind of maps repeatedly, where Icebox is constantly one of the most important deciding maps. It creates... that is not the narrative for any other clash across the entirety of Valorant. There is no other rivalry where they always play Icebox because other maps are banned. It's so weird and interesting and unique. What's it like to actually play against them?
They are a very confident team. I think it kind of comes down to how Asuna is doing. And I think Asuna is I think Asuna is by far the most impactful player of like the last couple of events. That guy honestly just like, in my opinion, he's not like, he's definitely the hard carry, but like the amount of impact, he has huge impact that you could see. But like even the impact that like you probably don't see and like you don't really feel that not playing is like insurmountable. Like I always hyped up Sinatra as the best player in the world for the longest time when we were owning, just because like of literally kind of what Asuna's doing, where he does this huge entry fragging thing while having all this impact and being selfless and a huge entry fragger also putting up huge numbers. Asuna is literally kind of like Sinatra, pretty almost exactly like Sinatra in that sense, other than he's just playing duelist only. So I think Asuna is honestly really well for them. I think Steel is having a lot of impact. He honestly, they have a really good roster. Hiko, Nitro, Dicey on the op could be really have pop off moments. They're honestly they could all just have. It's just like one of those teams that they could all pop off. So it's hard to account for individuals while they also just like have pretty fucking sick gameplay or team play. Where like they'll just have like Asuna just run in, Hiko drone you with this nerd dart that he learned from average Jonas bouncing off 20 roofs, and it's like, it's tough.
Yeah, it's
fun playing them. I've really adopted the philosophy of like I like playing really strong opponents that like make me to force shit or change shit. You know, it's not really fun for me now to like play the lower teams that don't really adjust to what you're doing. They don't really adjust their game plan. But 100 Thieves and TSM are very good at doing that. So I always look forward to playing like BO3s, BO5s against them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they're a very well-rounded team in terms of how they're being put together as well. I mean, I think they've still got further they can go as well in terms of their potential. Like you said, they're a new team. So
actually, talking about that, do you guys think that you and TSM are going to be a bigger rivalry, or you and 100 Thieves for 2021? Do you guys think about the game like that, of like you versus one of the others?
No, I wish I could be like, oh yeah, 100 Thieves. That's the person I want, and it's like try to like make a fan narrative. Honestly, I don't give a fuck. If they make it, they make it. Like if I'm being realistic, like if 100 Thieves and TSM get knocked out of every group, I'll be fine with that too. Just because like I almost know like in the back of my head I'll never say it just because I'm like scared that like I'll jinx it, but like I know like way more confident that like we'll win, you know, if both those teams are knocked out. They both could be scary on their heyday. It really comes down to like TSM could be very, very scary if they are all feeling it. Sam could be said 100 Thieves. I think 100 Thieves are more trying to be oriented or how to try to have like way more team play involved instead of individuals, while TSM will kind of just have individual pop-offs, you know, just win them rounds. So I don't know.
Are there any other teams coming up that you're worried about at all, like Cloud9 with their new roster, or any of the other
just
teams?
won.
Yeah, like do any of those teams are they on your radar at all as potential competitors in like the tier 1, or are they sort of outside of that still?
I mean, this is the game. With the way it works out is you really can't underestimate anybody. So like we'll do kind of like if we're playing this NSG thing this Wednesday on the 13th. I don't know when this is dropping. On the 13th of January, we're playing in an event. We're playing Space Station, so like we're not going to sleep on Space Station just because I personally don't think we won't lose to them. We're still going to watch their demos and have an understanding of how they like to play, what their map pool is like, and you know do our due diligence on the teams. Because as soon as you escape doing that is when you're going to consistently get upset. I think, in my opinion, I think that's where some teams kind of falter when they get upset. We rarely get upset other than like the known teams like Gen.G and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, actually a random one then that I just remembered from First Strike. You lost that one map.
Sakura Storm.
Sakura Storm. What happened there?
This is the stuff. That game was not streamed, right?
No, it was. We saw it. We went back and watched the VOD.
All right. So all I was gonna say is we have this thing with Ascent where if Arena is fighting us off Cat and he's feeling it, we'll lose. It's just one of those things. It happened to us before, and I broke it down to that. It's just that this guy was just fighting off Cat, randomly swinging. It'll be a minute 20. No reason to swing, no utility. He'll just swing, get a kill, dismiss, randomly swing again, kill. And it's like stuff like that will just happen. And then like at a certain point, they just gain momentum and they just win. So
he had ridiculous stats. Yeah. Who was it again?
Yeah, it was Silenx.
Silenx.
Look at that stat line. He was just fighting us, and he was just killing. But like at the end of the day, I think what happened is, and why we didn't. It's a BO3, so God bless it wasn't a BO1. If it was a BO1, I would put way more effort, or like I'd be way more upset at it. But because of the BO3, I think our mental, we understood like, hey guys, it fucking happens. Like we're obviously like, I'm not gonna be like, we lost, shucks. Like we were pissed that like we lost to even a team that we didn't really know. Like so, but like we reset, we won the other two, so like it's nothing to write home about. Losing one map in a BO3, it's not something I'm beating myself up over. It was kind of, I tweeted, we beat TSM in the JBL Cup. We shit on them. It was like 13-1, 13-2 or something. I really don't think those score lines matter, because sometimes with 13 rounds to win, you just get a heap of momentum and you can just hard carry a game, and it'll just happen. And that's why I think BO3s are the most vindicative of like performance. Like if you get knocked out in group stage just losing BO1s, obviously if it happens consistently it's going to be a problem, but I give teams like a pass one time where like it happens. If the other team's feeling it at BO1, you'll just lose. Especially characters like Reyna, where they could just like consistently take stupid fights and not get punished.
Liquid would love you if you're giving them passes just repeatedly for BO1 losses. That's
only one pass. I draw it after one, then you have a problem. If you can.
Let's talk a little bit, like hone it in on your teams here, because we don't have much time left anyway. You got to go pretty soon. So let's talk about your top 5 North American teams at the end of 2020. So at the end of 2020, the way it all like accumulated at the end of the JBL Cup and whatnot, what would you say your top 5 teams? I mean, obviously you're going to say yourselves at number 1, but who would be coming after that in your mind?
Well, I actually, I'm not a biggest fan of top. Obviously, I'm going to do it, but I'm just saying, like, I'd rather not even rank it like top 1. I just put the top 3 kind of almost all the same. I'd actually put top 2. I think also 100 Thieves literally 50-50. I think
Yeah.
it's literally who's feeling it that day will win. I go into that thing with no expectations. I'm obviously going to be confident because I'm a competitor and I'm going to believe in myself and my team to win. But it's like one of those things where we are so evenly matched. It literally comes out. It's almost like a BO1. It's literally almost like a BO1. Who's going to win Icebox? And that's like kind of how it's viewed to me. And then TSM is literally right there. Like I said, we beat them in JBLs. A BO1. Whenever you play TSM in BO3s or BO5s, it's very close. So they're right there. They have consistent results. They got a finalist in First Strike, so definitely respectable. Envy as well, very respectable team. They play proper. They play together and they have good players. I love them. That was like my old team before Sentinels. I don't know if people knew that, but yeah. And I don't know. The last rank, it really is kind of a toss up. I'd put Gen.G or FaZe, like literally flex. I'd probably put Gen.G just because they cause us problems. Maybe teams or people would disagree. Yeah. I put respect on Gen.G. I think they upped their game. We play Gen.G, since beta. They were really readable at one point, and now they kind of flexed it up. And sometimes they go into like, it's kind of hard with them because sometimes they'll be like super readable almost on the day, and then they'll change it up, randomly. Like they'll throw you like curveballs, so it's like random. Yeah.
Kurt's whipping out his tier maker.
There you go.
Sheesh.
How do you feel about Cloud9 right now? And they're removing Shinobi. Do you think that was a necessary move for them to make, or not the best move? How do you feel about it?
I'm not the biggest fan of like rating roster moves just because like you really don't know what's going on in the team. Like you don't know if that guy. Sorry, I should just Josh. I actually don't personally. I don't know even why. You really don't even know what he's doing. Like he might be trying to like micro really hard, and you think it's just affecting your gameplay negatively. You might just think it's because he's not fragging that well consistently, and you think you just have way more potential with 5 fraggers and a lighter caller where he doesn't really do that much, but he just has like a game plan. Or like maybe you want your coach to call because your coach could call and just have 5 frag. There's so much intricacies that like teams go into when they make roster moves like that. Yeah. But I'm not really surprised. I think they probably need some kind of change up. I feel like the results were so mixed, and with having 10s on their roster, they probably should have better results. That guy is honestly just really talented. So like, if I was him, I'd probably be like kind of pissed that like I'm just getting knocked out of like, you don't even qualify for First Strike. Yeah. So it's like stuff like that is probably tilting. But yeah, they'll probably be competitive. They have no slouches. I play with Mitch. I play with Skyler for a long time. They're all really good, players. They're smart. They'll find their way back.
Yeah, it's a kind of like a baity question, I think, asking you to rate the top 5 when you've already said that you feel like, I mean, it's just obvious that there are stylistic differences, like in terms of what teams you struggle with, where the strengths of teams lies. But anything for the clicks at the end of the day, go over the top 5 rankings.
I should be more spicy with them. Fuck 100 Thieves, they suck.
The final topic we've got before we send you away is talking about the regional differences and like NA versus EU versus whatever region. I don't know how much of the other regions you actually watch and how much of an opinion you have on this as well, but where do you think the strength of North America stacks up against the rest of the world right now when it comes to Valorant?
I mean, it's very I feel like I'm the kind of guy that I almost need to play like a LAN against them to really figure out where the styles lie. But from my hypothesis is that EU...
He's a scientist.
Okay.
Get out the conical flasks.
I think NA, obviously mechanical skills there. I think mechanical skills everywhere. I think Korea might actually be more mechanical than NA from what I've seen, but
really,
I think NA, I've been really impressed. RB, I don't know, maybe it's just him, maybe that guy just
he's cracked. He is really good.
I've watched RB and I just like I could jack off from those clips. But, I think NA are really good at adjusting to like what's going wrong, but like at the end of the day, that's gonna sound like, I'm sure like Liquid, like Sliggy's watching this is like, what the fuck, we adjust so well. It's like, like Angel watching this, like, so it's really hard, in that way. But I think that's probably what we have going for us. I think 100 Thieves might like crack through and just like make it really teamwork centric. I think they're doing really creative stuff in that camp that we're not really, we kind of think that's like really virgin and boomer shit, so we just kind of roll away from that and just like.
Wonderful. I mean, that's what I think about tactics.
Yeah. All right. Have you watched much Brazil, like in terms of a region?
No, I want to. What is it, Gamelanders? I actually want to watch their games. I haven't been. I think they have weird time zone for me. Like I watch what I can. Like I watch Vision Strikers First Strike, or not Vision. I just watch Korean First Strike. I watch Dark Horse. Some other team. Yeah, I watched a couple of their games just to see like who's the guy that raised double satchel shotgun only. Like I watched that guy.
Oh yeah,
like,
Bunny.
I actually.
Is it Bunny?
Yeah, it's Bunny.
Yeah, Bunny.
Who does that
guy goes. That guy has some of the most insane moves. I tried to put Jay on it. Like, yo, Jay, you should try this double satchel I saw from this guy. You know, like, I like doing that stuff where it's like I don't necessarily take their strats, but like I see what this one guy's doing and I could incorporate it into what we already are doing to make it a little better, stuff like that. But yeah, I think Europe, the thing is, I could always compare it to CS, where Europe has always been stronger as a region than CS. But then you have to go into all the intricacies of like the region difference, where like EU has like literally 10 times the player base as NA, when in Valorant, I think that's definitely like not the case.
Sure.
So it's like stuff like that. I think the European culture of like teamwork, I think I mentioned it during the ranking thing, where I think they kind of value teamwork a little more than NA and like comms and stuff like that. Even though NA all speak the same language and Europe is split in between all the different countries and stuff, they still have a more teamwork centric attitude towards the game. So I think that will separate us a decent amount. But hopefully, I am one of the firm believers that I think NA Valorant could be at least a very heavy competitor. I won't go as far to say like we're going to be the best by any means. I have to see how we stack up. I just have to see a LAN, but I have a lot of faith in our region to do well internationally. I think we're making the right decisions. I know people will think we're very individual and all that stuff, but it's like one of those things where a lot of adjustments are being made that you don't see. So what seems very individual, there's actually a lot of communication and decisiveness in it. So while it might fall apart and look really bad, when it does work, it's almost like suffocating to play against. Where it leaves you like no outs to teams that are very teamwork centric. So teams it's like almost like that Floyd Mayweather quote, or is that him? Where he's like, you kind of have a plan until you get punched in the face, where it's like they could come in with like all this teamwork stuff and then they kind of play against the really individual stuff that they think is weaker and you lose to it. And it's like, well, maybe it's not as bad as you think, Yeah. So that's kind of my opinion on it.
That's a fair take on it. I mean, do you guys have any final questions before we wrap this?
I just wanted to ask you one question. The first dates for challenges has been released, and 2021 marks the beginning of an actual proper tour. Like they've announced a circuit, an official circuit for Valorant that Riot are doing. When you look forward to the rest of 2021, what are your general goals? Like, have you set aspirations for yourselves in terms of something long term? Like, where do you envision yourself at the end of the year or throughout the year? What are you going for here?
I mean, it comes very easy just to say we want to make the I think it's Masters, the LAN event in December. But that's like the final goal, is to make it, or I guess the final goal is to win it, but like you have to split up. You have one big goal. Obviously, it's very obvious to be like, let's win the LAN, but then you also have to separate into all these little goals. And we're like the kind of team to do that. And then we'll just focus right now on the challengers. So we're just going to focus on the first challengers, take everything step by step. But the ultimate goal is to win the actual event. But at the end of the day, you can't look too far forward. You just have to focus on your day by days, making sure every day your practice is being as well run as it could be. Every event you're taking to the utmost seriousness, doing your due diligence on your teams. And yeah, all that stuff, all that good stuff, breaking it down. We try not to get too ahead of ourselves. We just kind of do our thing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Dapper. I mean, it's
no problem, man.
Appreciate the time. It's very insightful. I think getting your kind of like viewpoints on a whole bunch of different stuff, because normally it's literally just four kind of uninformed morons, just kind of talking shit on this channel. So definitely appreciate your time.
I mean, this is a lot of fun. I have a hard on for talking about stuff like this. I find a lot of enjoyment. I like talking to other pros about it from different regions. Like I'd actually be really interested in talking about like how meta differences in Europe and Korea and like how everything kind of stacks up in conversation with other players that definitely know like what's going on instead of just so like stuff like that is very interesting to me. It's obviously I'm open to learn, but this is a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
I mean, it's just been a wonderful little episode. I think we're gonna have some future guests on as well. For you guys watching us, make sure you leave a comment to see who you want to be featured in the next piece that we do. I don't really know what we're going to call this. We haven't figured out a name yet, but we're going to figure out a name at some point.
Radiant Chat. Maybe.
Radiant Chat. Yeah, maybe. Make sure you like and subscribe as well if you enjoyed the content. And we'll see you again next week for the next episode of Plat Chat Valorant. See you then.